pack of cigarettes? Cute cat. What's its name?
Annoying customer.
Fucking dickhead.
What do you know about 2 certified bankers? PhantasmaCast.
Thank you for visiting PhantasmaCast again, and I assure you, we're open. I'm Derek.
I'm Jake.
And neither of us were even supposed to be here today. A sentiment which propels today's episode entitled
Counterculture.
The 2 certified bangers we've got in stock today are Clerks from 1994 and Empire Records from 1995. But first, Jake, what are you buying?
I was a good boy this week. Yeah, I think we were both good boys this week.
Speak for yourself.
I'm doubly as good then, because actually I didn't even buy this week. I bought it weeks ago, and it finally came in.
And you call yourself a good boy, and that's bad boy.
Yeah, it's
so bad.
Actually, just a holdover from when I was a terrible boy. It's the last horror film. Have you ever heard of it?
No, not until you quizzed me about it. You're just like, look it up.
Since you and I are both suckers for great taglines, it says on the cover, it says it's a naked woman like tied up and being strangled by like celluloid.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Sorry, you were like the tagline, and I'm like, that's the beginning of the tagline.
No,
it's a naked woman.
Sorry,
okay.
I got sidetracked by the naked woman on the cover.
You are a terrible boy.
The tagline is, "She came from hell, he cams from hell."
That's so bad. All right, we need to watch that.
So I discovered this movie watching In Search of Darkness, as I have with so many of my latest editions, just kind of forgotten 80s horror movies, right?
Yeah, we haven't plugged that enough.
No,
I feel like we have talked about it twice, but not enough.
Yeah,
it should go right up there with how many times we go ding kundi, ding 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 ding.
If you're just like, if you want a good like catalog of the best 80s horror movies,
and I do,
watch those movies. There's 3 of them, and they're both about 5 fucking hours long. Like, and it's great to just have on in the background.
Yeah, or 5 hours short.
Yeah. I don't know much about the plot, other than it revolves around a kind of demented horror movie aficionado who wants to make his own horror movie, and then violence and gore ensues.
Hence, he cams from hell. God damn it.
But a cool little factoid about this movie, it was shot very much guerrilla style, and Cannes was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
the film festival for any of our non-movie folks out there.
The festival that basically launches indie careers. Yeah. Cannes was happening, and the script called for like this big movie premiere, and so they just had the actress running around the streets of Cannes, and you've got all these real celebrities kind of in the background.
That's cool.
So I thought that was really cool. Love the spirit of it. And when I heard about it from In Search of Darkness, I immediately looked it up to see if there was a Blu-ray release. At the time, I don't think there was, but thankfully Severin, the beautiful company that it is, got the rights to it, did a scan from the original 35 millimeter print. And yeah, I'm glad that this one came in.
Awesome. Wasn't there another movie you wanted to talk about? Maybe one you didn't buy yet.
Oh yeah. So as we were setting up, I was telling Derek, I kind of spilled the beans about what I was going to get him for his birthday. And it was this movie called, and I'm sure some of you may know what I'm talking about. It's called The People's Joker.
Yes.
Which is a parody film from a trans filmmaker named Vera Drew of, and you're going to love this too, Derek, Haunted Gay Ride Productions.
Fabulous. Fabulous. I do love it. And you said, well, when you brought it up, you're like, have you heard about it? I'm like, yeah, it looks terrible. But terrible in the sense that I need to see it.
Yeah.
Still.
It looks terrible. I'll love it.
Yeah. It's like, if I truly didn't want to see the movie, I'd just be like, eh.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, oh, it's awful, I can't wait. Yeah.
I watched a trailer for the first time a couple weeks ago and was like, damn, like they really did this kind of like DIY lean into how cheap it looks, and then that becomes part of the style, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta watch that. And I saw on Diabolic that a physical release was in the pipeline. So that's available now for anyone who wants to go buy it.
Yeah. That's really cool considering that Warner Brothers really didn't want it to get out there because it was like, oh, we own Batman. You can't do this with the Joker.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they stuck to their guns.
But it is a parody film, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a trans filmmaker using these characters to say something new, something that like Warner Brothers wouldn't have the balls to even say, right? Like,
Right. They would use something existing to say the same exact thing. Here's another Batman movie.
yeah.
Great. That took a lot of balls.
And not that Warner Brothers is making any decisions that are seemingly like pro film anymore, you know.
Shots.
It's like every other
rightly
week.
fired. Yeah.
Every other week there's some news about how, you know, they're doing another merge, or they're you know, I think they canceled Cartoon Network.
I think they've been trying to kill Cartoon Network in public for years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just like how Disney is like, wow, you didn't get 3 trillion minutes viewed for your show? Goodbye.
It's weird. Weird times.
Yeah.
I think the pendulum might be coming back to independent filmmakers now, which is good.
Yeah, I hope so. Which is going to be kind of what we talk about in this episode a little bit.
Exactly.
You know? So, was that all for your films?
That was all. Last horror film, and am circling, pulling the trigger on the People's Joker.
Cool. Then for me, I picked up Furiosa on 4K.
You had to.
I had
You
to.
had to.
I'm gonna make it epic, you know. So that was great. The only thing I will say that was kind of disappointing about the 4K release, is it wasn't a Blu-ray 4K combo. It's 4K only.
Oh, they committed to. Was it the same price as a Blu-ray 4K combo?
Yeah, like $30 or whatever. I did some trade-in wizardry and got it for $7.
Okay.
Though. So what I did not do trade-in wizardry for is my other purchase, the Evil Dead Rise 4K, the UK import though.
Oh, okay. Why'd you get the UK import?
Because that one has the director's commentary on it, which the American release did not seem to feel was important enough.
Did it have any special features?
Maybe. But like, it's crazy that they had a director's commentary on hand and then just said no.
Yeah.
That's insane.
There aren't nerds with podcasts who listen to commentary tracks.
At least 2 of them. 2 guys.
Okay, but since it's 4K, you're able to play it. So
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah. So that it just boggles my mind why that wasn't included on the American air quotes, 4K, which is also region free. I don't know what I want to see the cost benefit analysis to excluding that.
What are these companies now?
Dude. Yeah. But diving into the movies now. Clerks, Empire Records.
Clerks and Empire Records. 2 films that kind of define the kind of 90s counter culture like genre, right? There were a handful of them.
Yeah.
But these are the 2 that I think come to mind the most. And I've been trying to come up with a reason to do an Empire Records episode. And I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think it was your idea to pair it with Clerks.
Yeah, because I was just like, okay, yeah, we'd circled around Empire Records for a little bit. And I was like, the answer's right under our nose. Clerks,
Yeah.
one of your favorite movies.
Absolutely.
One you hold dear to your heart. So I'm like, let's just do it. And lo and behold, they actually share some commonality other than, you know, the counterculture-ness of it all.
Yeah.
They were released close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of about like workplace woes at that time. Just teen angst, really.
I think it was something, at least Empire Records was made for a teen audience,
Yeah.
but like they're like 20 somethings, right? So it's these characters that are in this like in between time. They're out of school and they're facing the rest of their adulthood, but then they still have these kind of teen problems that they're dealing. So it's just like an Arrested Development kind of situation, right?
Yeah. Empire Records is more of a teen movie, you know, but Clerks is a young adult, early 20s kind of thing.
Yeah.
On the surface, like their age, they act like children though, which is funny. But yeah. So how do you want to kick this off? Let's talk about Clerks first, right? It came out first. It's kind of had the longer staying power of the two, I would say.
Yeah, so Clerks, I have been a Kevin Smith fan since I was a kid. It sounds weird to say, but I think the first Kevin Smith movie I ever saw was Mallrats. And that was around when it came out, like 96 or 97, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I just liked how goofy it was. I loved the characters of Jay and Silent Bob. And then when I got into high school is when I discovered, oh, these characters actually have an origin story elsewhere, like in another movie, and it's black and white. Let me watch this. And then it was at the time the most raunchy fucking thing I had ever seen committed to film, and I immediately fell in love with it. And then from there, I was just a Kevin Smith fan. Like, I've listened to PhantasmaCast ever since it first started. And I've just been kind of, you know, bought into the Kevin Smith orbit, you know, basically my whole life. So I know really well the kind of origin story of Clerks, which is, Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith did theater in high school, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he's always been kind of this like showman, you know, kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you've said it in the past that he kind of like discounts himself a lot. But he knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Even in my notes for when we watched it, I was like, he is unfairly maligned as like a kind of like goofy, artless kind of filmmaker. But this movie is structured well. It hits all the right beats. It's not predictable,
and it was made smartly, right? Yes. So after high school, Kevin Smith gets a job at the Quick Stop. Like, he worked there. And then did a quick stint at the Vancouver Film School where he met his friend and long-term producing partner, Scott Mosier.
You went to a Vancouver film school?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm learning.
After, you know, doing a couple of semesters at the Vancouver Film School, he and Scott make a deal, right? The first one who can write a feature, they'll make that. The one who wrote it will direct it, and then the other one will produce it. And so Kevin Smith got to Clerks first, and they decided to make Clerks.
The rest is history.
Yeah. And when I say he had made it smartly, you know, just he wrote a movie around what he had. Both like logistically and resource wise, but also like from a storytelling perspective. So he was very inspired by Slacker, I think was the movie that inspired him to make a movie like this.
Yeah, which is why Linklater gets a thank you credit.
Thank you in the post credit. Yeah. And so he was like, I can make a day in the life of these convenience store clerks who do nothing but make really offensive jokes and talk about Star Wars all day.
Yeah, it must have been awesome to be around when Slacker came out, to then be like, whoa, that's permission. Like, you can make that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. It doesn't have to be, a Hitchcock movie. It doesn't have to be The Godfather. It can be Slacker.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how to describe Slacker to someone who hasn't seen it, really. It's just a hangout movie. Really, it's just characters drift into a scene. We watch it play out. We're on to the next scene, kind of thing.
No, you said it very well in the sense, like, it gives you permission, right? You don't need to be the first one to an idea, right? Like, there are filmmakers out there who, are in different positions from you, right? And so every now and then a movie comes along that does something in a way that, like, you don't usually do, right? And then you're like, well, he did it. Like, I can do that too.
Yeah.
And that's what Kevin Smith did.
Yeah. And circling back to The People's Joker, right?
Yeah.
It's not the first parody movie ever.
Yeah.
It's probably not the first, like, trans allegory movie, right? But it's done in such a unique, specific way that it cements itself in film history.
So Clerks is that success story, if you will. It was one of the movies that, kind of didn't launch Miramax, but it kind of took Miramax in a very kind of edgy direction, right? Because they'd been making movies since the 80s. But Kevin Smith, made the movie for just under $30,000, sold his comic book collection to pay people cash whenever he needed the cash, and then he put the rest on credit cards. Takes it to a film festival in New York. Harvey Weinstein happens to be in the audience, and he actually walked out of the screening. He didn't give it its due.
Yeah, and we never heard from him ever again.
Fortunately. But Weinstein's assistant had finished the movie, and he caught up with him and told him, no, like, you have to watch this movie. Like, watch it until you hear the word 37, and then you have permission to leave if you still don't like it.
Oh, that's what that was?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, tell that story, because I thought it was that they'd read the script and died laughing during that.
Uh-huh.
And then that's when they decided to, like, fund it. But what's the real story? Tell the whole story.
What I know is the movie had been made, so they it was actually playing at the film festival.
Okay.
And Harvey Weinstein, being an independent film distributor, was looking for some stuff to buy, and immediately wrote Clerks off. But then he gave it a second chance. The reviews started coming out. People started to like it. Offers Kevin Smith a deal. Boom. The rest is history. Launches Kevin Smith's career. It was successful on release and went on to have a very lucrative physical release as well. It did super well on VHS. Actually, it as a movie is recognized as being the most stolen VHS tape from rental stores.
That's great. I think Kevin Smith would find that endearing.
Yeah, oh yeah, he loves that.
He'd be like, go steal it. Watch it. That's fine.
So I think one of the endearing things about Clerks is that it very much is like these stories that are very real to people of that age, that like early 20-something, don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. So, you're at a job that you really hate and don't care for. You don't even know what's going on with your love life. You're just kind of with whoever you're with at the time.
Whomst among us.
So, but then you take those kind of setups, those scenarios, and then you add Kevin Smith's dirty fucking mind to it, and then you get like one of the best jokes of the movie, which is where Dante, who's ostensibly the main character, the movie's shot through his kind of perspective most of the time, and he's a stand-in for Kevin Smith. So he's having a conversation with his girlfriend, Veronica. This guy comes in who is just kind of is strung out, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Jill Veronica, say hi."
Scott Mosier, right?
Yeah, played by Scott Mosier. And as he walks out, Dante asks her, like, "Why do you call him Snowball?" And she says, "Well, it's a thing that our friend came up with. When you give him a blowjob, he likes it to be spit back into his mouth as you kiss him afterwards."
Clerks, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
And then Dante is like, Sylvan did that to him? And she's like,
No,
I did that to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And it just devolves into this argument about like how many lovers she's had in the past, and
specifically how many dicks she sucked.
and so he's like, how many? She's like, what do you mean? He's like, how many dicks have you sucked?
Yeah, don't make me say it. How many dicks have you sucked?
She goes, something like 37. Which is just...
She's like, 36, including me, 37. And then the real, I think the good button on that joke is 37 dicks. And then a customer comes back up. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks
in a row. And then the final one is she's storming out, and he comes out, and there's a guy kind of standing on the corner, and as she storms away, he goes, "Try not to suck any dick on your way to the park."
Guy leaning up against the wall
starts following.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, come back. It's it's funny. It's completely juvenile, and watching it again recently, I'm like, man, yeah, there is an obsession with sex to this movie, and like a juvenile outlook to it.
Dick and fart jokes, man.
Dick and fart jokes, which kind of masks the smart filmmaker that is underneath it, like we were talking.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a good sense of structure. He's got a good sense of like character, despite you probably not thinking like, these are cool people that I want to hang out with. They're just middle class New Jerseyites, something like that. And they tell dick and fart jokes and wonder how many dicks their girlfriends have sucked, or call each other, gay slurs all the time.
Right. Or so like one person we're absolutely forgetting is Randall, the counterpart to Dante. Yes. Right. So Dante mans the quick stop, and then Randall mans the VHS Nintendo rental store, RTS Video.
They like
door.
Share a wall, right?
Yeah. Like presumably like all owned by the same, person. They're all employed with it, but it's just two parts of the same building.
Yeah.
And like where Dante, like, I don't think he loves his job, but he still tries, right? He wasn't even supposed to be there today. He was called in on his fucking day off, right?
Yeah.
And then Randall is the exact opposite. He does not give a fuck, right? Like you get the sense that he only works there so that he can hang out with Dante.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the sense that everyone else at that video rental store quit, and he's just the only one there.
Yeah, I mean, it's his opportunity to just hang out and watch movies and eat snack cakes all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only reason he hasn't been fired because nobody else wants to work there.
Right. And when I think about the guys, some of the guys I was friends with in high school, they were the kind of guys that would work at Dairy Queen and get stoned in the freezer, during a slow afternoon. Right. And that's exactly who Randall is.
Yeah.
Although this is pre-stoner Kevin Smith also.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's like a slacker movie more than a stoner movie.
Yeah. There are Jay and Silent Bob in it. They're drug dealers, right? But it's not about that, right? It's kind of about the situations, the point that they are in their life, their lives, and the absurdity of what they're doing. And so the movie's got heart, right? And I think that's why it had a lot of staying power.
Yeah, it's despite its like constant crassness, its juvenile outlook, there is an authenticity there to it. There are very like stylized moments of dialogue with their banter, specifically Dante and Randall's banter about like what it means to have a title, and title doesn't dictate behavior and all that. But those are still like memorable lines and like just like smart filmmaking underneath this crassness, right? That spoke to people, and it's the reason it was successful when it came out.
It's a movie that comes out and is not afraid to talk like you talk with your friends.
Yeah.
You know? And not a lot of movies at that time did, right? A lot of independent film was kind of on a high horse, you know?
Kind of a little stuffy.
Yeah. And so here Kevin Smith comes along and is just like, no, I'm going to make a movie about my friends, with my friends, for my friends. And if you guys enjoy it too, that's great, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why people gravitated to it. And you know, you put that movie on in a group of people, everyone's gonna die fucking laughing.
That's all of the cultural impact that Clerks had when it was like first released, right? But even today, despite like, you know, you throw it on and it's still funny. I think it's a little less funny now, personally, but it's still funny. I think what's always going to be relevant about it is that working class struggle, that middle class struggle, that I'm at this fucking job. I fucking hate it. Look at this guy. This asshole's coming up being like, hey, do you have the good toilet paper, son? And asking for a porno mag for free. Like that's a very heightened New Jersey thing to happen. But like little things like that are always going to be prevalent in the customer service realm. So I think anyone who's worked a customer service job will have something in Clerks to pull from and be like, yeah, it fucking sucks and I hate myself. But I love that it touches on that without getting too serious about it. And there is that relationship between Dante and Randall, which you really need that kind of friendship with someone, that workship.
You're both in the trenches together kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And like maybe you drive each other fucking nuts all the time, and you maybe don't hang out outside of work, but you need each other at work. And I love that about Clerks. That's always like a really smart through line that's present in the film that I always appreciate. And a through line that I think he picks up again in Clerks 2, you know, somewhere along the line, like now in their 40s or something, right? Yeah. And then I haven't seen Clerks 3, but I will.
Oh man. So Clerks 3, I had avoided because there were a couple of movies there where I was like, I really don't know what Kevin Smith's doing here. You know, Yoga Hosers and, let's just say Yoga Hosers.
Yeah.
I loved Red State. I absolutely loved Red State. I loved Tusk. You know, I loved his horror movies. But there were a couple movies he did there where I was like, I don't know. So it took me a while to watch Clerks 3, but I watched it and I cried because it's like at once he tried to do that thing where it's like a sequel but a remake, but it's also like a making of Clerks.
That's cool.
So you and I had watched the commentary track, and there was
Clerks, Clerks 1.
And there was a part where there's a scene where Jason Mewes has to like dance in front of the store at night. And in the commentary track, Kevin Smith was talking about how Jason Mewes wanted everyone to go away because he was embarrassed and didn't want everyone on the crew to see him dance. So he had everyone kind of like either go away or look away. And that scene is in Clerks 3. So, you know, as Randall's making a movie, right? And the character that he's filming has to dance. I think it's actually Jason Mewes. And Jason Mewes is like, so I don't want to do this with all these people around. And so, you know, it's a really sweet movie. But anyways, you know, like, I think what I'm trying to get at is that these movies, Kevin Smith's career, have always been about, you know, the people he loves. you know, and that's another thing I really, really love about who he is and the kind of stories that he does. Dante is a stand-in for him, and Randall is a stand-in for another one of his friends when he was growing up, Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
Who, you know, he's in Comic Book Men and has, you know, had his own success as well. There's a scene in Dogma where Chris Rock's character was basically trying to prove to Bethany that that he's an angel.
Okay.
and she's like, well, if you're an angel, tell me something no one else would know. And he goes, when you were 12 years old, you let a boy next door piss in your hair.
Jesus. Yep. That's
3
Kevin
years
Smith,
later,
all right.
he died of leukemia. That boy's name was Brian Johnson. So I love that kind of shit, man. It's so good.
And that's Clerks, and that's the Clerks style of film. But then the next year, 1995, we have another, you know, counterculture kind of movie in Empire Records.
Empire Records is, again, that's very much a movie that's like a life in the day of a store clerk. But you know, what sets it apart from Clerks is that it's a little bit more polished. It's a studio picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's put out by Regency, which is a subsidiary of 20th Century Fox, I believe.
Yeah.
So very much like the man's version of Clerks, I think.
Which is ironic considering the story ostensibly being told in Empire Records. Yeah.
We've got a lot more stories going on in this movie than Clerks. We've got this ensemble cast. Liv Tyler wants to lose her virginity to her favorite musician, Rex Manning, who is in the record store that
For Rex
day.
Manning Day. Yes.
AJ wants to tell her he loves her, but
The
he
pretty
can't.
boy.
Deb has issues with Coyote Shivers, and we don't quite know why he's even in this movie.
Yeah.
And Joe, you know, wants to save the store, but he can't because Lucas blew everything in Atlantic City. The whole thing's a soap opera, right? That has much more to offer than Clerks. Yet for some reason was blown out of the water by Clerks, both culturally and at the box office.
Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with the meddling of the movie after it was like completed, because you looked into this too. There was like a good 40 minutes and like some extra characters that were eventually edited out of the movie.
Yeah.
And
The movie was originally supposed to take place over the course of 2 days. So it was 2 days in the life of some store clerks. But, you know, for some reason, didn't test well for the studio, I think. Or maybe they wanted something that moved a little faster, that maybe was a little less Clerks, right? The director, Alan Moyle, originally envisioned these long diatribes about artists and albums.
that would have been cool.
Right. Apparently there was a 5-minute scene where a couple of characters are talking about the Shags, and that was cut out of the movie entirely. Right. And that just kind of makes me think of the Death Star conversation.
Yeah.
In Clerks. Right. So it's like the studio watches that scene and goes, this is boring. Let's cut it out. Right. So they rob the movie of the very thing that would make it relevant to the audience that they're fucking marketing it to.
Yeah. That would be like if they wanted to take it a step further and edit out cool things in Empire Records. I can imagine some dumbass studio hack being like, let's edit out Rex Manning.
Yeah.
The whole thing that like people have glommed onto it since is this Rex Manning Day. They like celebrate it like it's a real thing. And that's like the whole reason that people even like kind of talk about it now. It's just kind of like, you know, like how Mean Girls has a thing. Like it's October 4th or, you know. Do you know what day it is? It's October 4th. They go, it's Rex Manning Day. And then we get talking about Empire Records again. Even though it's kind of a shallowish story, like all said and done. So it would kneecap the movie.
I'm obsessed with this notion that a movie like Clerks, right, is the one that quote unquote got it right.
Yeah.
And that Empire Records didn't. And the simple fact that you were talking about, like, people have this thing that's lived on beyond the movie, Rex Manning Day. It's kind of proof that movies like have a life beyond the box office.
Yeah.
And that's where both Clerks and Empire Records really cemented their place in this 90s counterculture narrative, right? We all remember Clerks, right? But we're all rediscovering Empire Records today.
Yeah.
You know?
Another cool thing about Empire Records, or like the genesis of the whole story, I want to say, is the screenwriter, Carol Heikkinen. I think that's how you say her name.
Harkonnen.
Yeah, she sold all her spice to get this funded. Little Dune joke for the audience. No, she apparently she worked at a Tower Record store in Phoenix, Arizona, in Christown Mall.
That's so cool.
So shout out to a homie. So I don't lay any of the blame for like what I've been saying, like the shallowness of the characters.
Yeah.
I think it's studio interference to be like, this is boring, who cares? Talking about an album, who fucking cares? Get rid of that. Rex Manning Day, okay, I guess it can stay, but it's one day, not two. Like just all the wrong, bad, boring bullshit decisions.
Absolutely. It like, you watch it and you know that there is a deeper, better movie in there.
Yeah.
It's just it was Frankenstein, and things were cut out that like really should have been there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like a couple of things stand out to me, right? Like there's a guy, I think the character's name is Eddie, and he comes in and
that guy.
and he's always talking to
Mark.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay, does this guy work here, or is he a customer that's like really tight?
Yeah. that gets led into the little back room with everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're like, okay. So does Coyote Shivers work here? What's his deal?
Who knows?
Is he like, we get the sense that he's maybe dating Deb?
Yeah.
But there's no confirmation.
Yeah. Like any kind of context is edited out.
Exactly.
Which sucks. Yeah. So they're like the kids in the movie, there's a lot of potential there. And it's just kind of in this little mediocre middle area.
One story that I think really kind of furthers this idea that there was too much studio interference is, and I was telling you this as we were watching the movie, I really like the Coyote Shivers song that plays at the end of the movie.
You're like, why is this guy here? That being said, I like his song. Yeah.
Sugar High is a great song, and it features vocals from Renee Zellweger, who, when I first saw this movie when I was a kid, I thought was the most gorgeous woman of all time.
Yeah. Helped in large part by when she tries on the
apron?
Music Town apron. Yeah.
So she has vocals in this song. And I think a big thing that this movie was accused of when it first came out, I think this movie was maybe seen as like a poser kind of movie, but it was seen as a vehicle for a soundtrack, right? They were like, oh, it's a movie about a record store. You're just trying to sell more records, you know?
A scathing review I saw was just some images in search of a soundtrack to sell.
That's unfair.
Yeah.
But like, that's mean. It's not misplaced, but it's fucking mean.
You're not wrong, but why did you bring the big guns?
Yeah. What did Empire Records do to you?
How many dicks did Empire Records suck? And were you one of them? 38 in a row?
So yeah, they did come out with a soundtrack, of course, and it had Sugar High on it, right?
Okay.
But I don't remember the name of whoever this person was, but I think like the music producer for the soundtrack had the opinion that Renee Zellweger's vocals were just too much for the song. So he just fucking cut her out of the song entirely. So if you listen to the official release of the song, it's just Coyote Shivers, which I think is really funny and just kind of like tells the whole story behind this movie all in one, right?
Yeah.
It's a movie about kind of fighting the man.
Damn
right?
the man.
Because the whole idea is the owner of the store is selling the store to this like big franchise
Yeah.
called Music Town. Towards the end of the movie, they all discover it, and so then it kind of becomes a like, let's stop this from happening, kind of movie.
Yeah.
So it's a
despite
movie,
all their differences, they, rally together.
yes. So like the irony that it's a movie about like rebellion, and then like the man didn't like Renee Zellweger's vocals, so she got fucking cut out, right? The man didn't like the real stories that were being told in the movie, so they got cut out. The movie just got gutted of everything that made it real.
And then the stuff that is in it seems shallow in comparison. Like the kind-hearted manager, like, who does a great job. I think he does a good performance. Yeah. And I even like his one line that I wrote down. He's addressing the employees. He says, Mitchell's the man, I'm the idiot, you're the screw up, and you're all losers. Welcome to Music Town. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good line. There's good stuff to be had here, despite all the cuts and the man interfering.
So I think, whereas Clerks was released to an audience that got it, Empire Records, I think it was a movie that like pretended to get it, against its own will, right? Like I'm sure that, again, that there was a real good movie in there, but just what it was turned into, like people I think could see right through it, and they weren't buying it,
Yeah, literally, because it made
it flopped.
300,000 on a $10 million or so budget.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think it's just lamentable that Empire Records was tinkered with so much. And I wish that we could see that original director's cut and see the 3 characters that were cut out and see those 40 minutes of the other day,
Yeah. Or even just have the ones that we did get fleshed out better, because they are a little one note. Like they are their archetypes.
Yeah.
There's the pretty boy who just wants to tell Liv Tyler that he loves her. She just wants to find a sense of the pretty girl, Liv Tyler, just kind of wants to find a sense of self outside of her, ambitions, which is going to Harvard. Mm-hmm. And then it's grossly, I think, 90s directed into, well, I gotta fuck Rex Manning. Like you're
well,
18,
she's
19.
she's the good girl, right? Who finally is trying to do something bad,
Yeah.
But then there's another shot where I think she takes speed or something.
Oh yeah.
Which is really funny that like in a stressful moment your response is, I need to take the thing that helps me study better.
It's like it's all she knows, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. But there are also these other archetypes like Mark, right? The stoner, the giggly little stoner.
Yeah.
Who comes off now as more annoying rather than kind of funny. Like he doesn't take anything seriously. He's hardly in it, but then when he's in there, he's just yucking it up the whole time, and he's like being weird to like this one girl who's like listening to a soundtrack. He like is like leaning in to kiss her when her eyes are closed.
That's 90s. That's 90s direction there for, like
They're like, that stays.
you can't put that in a movie now because it's cringe, you know?
But that stayed. But we can't have a conversation about music in a fucking movie about a record store.
Yeah. Harvey Weinstein's a fucking monster, but he didn't do any of this to Clerks. You know what I mean?
True. Irony, right?
Right.
He was the one, maybe he wasn't the one, but he was definitely of the opinion that Clerks shouldn't end the way it did. Which was a good decision.
It's a good call.
Yeah, which the original ending, to those not in the know, is that Dante gets killed.
Gets fucking capped at the end.
That's such a downer. That sucks. Then we'd have no Clerks 2 or 3. It's such a weird note to end on, and I'm glad that note got in and Kevin Smith went, Yeah, you're right. You're probably right.
Right. Right.
I think he said the only reason he ended it that way to begin with was he didn't know how to end a movie.
Right. So you do the most edgy fucking 90s art film move of all time and just kill your main character for no reason.
Kill him, curtains go up, and he gets on the mic afterwards, and he wasn't even supposed to be there. You ever think about that? Am I right, folks?
Oh, that was good. One last little factoid before we head out.
Sure.
What's the movie Regency could have made instead of Empire Records?
Oh, I love this. Clueless. Heard of it?
Right.
You have, because that was successful.
2 days. 2 days after Michael G. Nathanson, the executive who bought and greenlit Empire Records.
And maybe the one that kneecapped it for all we know.
Right. So 2 days after he says a go on Empire Records, he's offered the script for Clueless and loved it.
Yeah.
But because he didn't want Regency to be known as a teen comedy studio, whatever the fuck that means.
What an old man. Yeah, go on.
They passed on it.
No thanks, I've got my teen movie at home.
Yeah. They were the first studio offered it, the first and only studio to pass on it. And it made Paramount a fucking boatload of money the same summer as Empire Records.
Damn. Yeah.
So, you know, I think that is a nice bow on this story, right? Of, you know, film executives don't know fucking shit. They don't. And you know, they can pass on a gold mine of a movie, and they can chop up a really good story into something that really doesn't mean anything. But I'm glad Empire Records has kind of gotten its due as of late. I think people are starting to talk about it a little more.
I'm glad that it has a cult following and that it's available to buy still. It didn't just get buried for making no money and like no further money going towards it to make sure it still exists, which I think is like this is a 2024 paranoia of mine of things not doing so well, and they say delete it.
It's done.
Batgirl,
but before it's even shown to the public.
Yeah, Batgirl.
Yeah.
I think that'll be like the infamous example of like a completed movie or a nearly completed movie that people were like, that's pretty good actually. And then they were like, Warner Brothers, right?
Right.
Like,
it's always Warner Brothers.
And they just lit it on fire and called it a day.
I mean, that is just like, we're talking about 1994 decisions here, right? When movie people still ran the studios. Movie people don't run the studios anymore. It's all finance bros.
Yeah. And like tech bros now.
And they're being bought out by tech bros, right? So like no one at the top is really motivated to make art or even entertainment anymore. They're just trying to make a product that they can suck as much fucking wealth out of as possible until they discard its wasted carcass.
Yeah. If I had to review it, I would review it like the one person who reviewed Psycho 2's acting from last episode. It's like no one likes movies anymore and knows what the fuck they're doing, you know?
All right, folks, that is it for PhantasmaCast, where we watch our favorite movies 2 at a time. I'm Jake.
And I'm Derek.
And come back next time. We're gonna have a special guest.
Yes.
Next time.
Let's just say we're going to watch 2 certified bangers, but there might be 3 people talking about it.
3 certified hosts.
Yes.
Next time.
All right, get out of here. We're closed.